Welcome to Talking Shit, where we are talking all sorts of shit. Schitt's Creek, that is. Today we are talking about Schitt's Creek Season 1, Episode 11, Little Sister. I'm Jess Sterling, and of course I'm joined by someone who most certainly isn't a cheap ass, Stuart. Stuart, how are you?
I don't know about not being a cheap ass, but I'll certainly take it.
I don't think I would consider you a cheap ass. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think everyone has their cheap ass qualities, like certain things. There are certain things that people will spend money on, certain things that people won't spend money on.
Yeah.
I tend to drift towards the whole, why do I need it? I try to live quite minimally, but then there are other things that I buy in copious amounts, like D&D books and other related materials.
Yeah, I think everyone has a thing, right? That's like
Mm.
a thing they're willing to spend a ton of money on. And there are things where you're like, I'll just buy like it's like mayonnaise. Do I need Hellman's? No, I'll just buy the store brand. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. You don't even buy mayonnaise. Do they have mayonnaise over there? Like, what do you do?
No,
You don't buy mayonnaise?
I thought you were about to get into a whole thing about how you've got a vast mayonnaise collection of different types, and I was just like, I'm kind of not surprised.
I buy every single type of mayonnaise there is, and I put them all on a shelf, and I never eat them.
This is such a tangent, but one of the voice actors from Baldur's Gate 3 has an obsession with ranch, and they went to America, and there was this whole aisle of different ranch dressings, and I was like, this is total Jess content.
That's incredible. So it's someone
amazing.
who is it someone who's British that does a voice for
It's the
Baldur's
voice
Gate?
actress for, I think it's Lae'zel. And yeah, they went over to America
incredible.
and discovered the world of ranch, and there was like all these different varieties. And I was actually taken aback at how many different varieties of ranch dressing that you guys have.
Oh, everything. I mean, you add anything in, right? Like you add a little bit of Southwest Ranch. You know what I mean? Like there's no limit to how many things you can combine with ranch dressing. Yeah.
Incredible.
Anyway,
Sorry for the tangent.
that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Schitt's Creek. Little Sister, Season 1, Episode 11. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure you go to subscribe to us, subscribe to the podcast, watch us on YouTube, see our beautiful faces. I got a haircut. You can see it. It feels great. Summer's coming in. It is too freaking hot. Anyway, that's another tangent. But this episode, Stuart, quick hits, quick ideas, quick thoughts, feelings, concerns about Season 1, Episode 11.
Called it last week, Little Sister. I was like, is it going to be an aunt that turns up? Turns out, yep, completely nailed that, which is a rarity here with my guests on what's coming up based on the episode title. Dee Dee is, how do we say this? Awful, but also one of my favorite characters because she's just absurd. Like the facial expressions, the Canadian accent that is surely not real. Like it mustn't be. It's way too stereotypical, and oh gosh, like that kind of like whole thing. I was obsessed with Dee Dee.
I like the idea that when we meet Dee Dee, we're almost meeting a different version of Moira, like in a past life. Because you can imagine she was not dissimilar to Dee Dee. Maybe a little bit more dramatic with more wigs and better fashion sense, but you know, the way that she's acting very much better than Moira. Oh no, I won't stay here. I'm staying at a hotel in Elmdale. I'm in the best shape of my life and I need a gym. Like it feels very much like Moira in another life. Yeah, Dee Dee sucks, but in a way that is like enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it's the whole Schadenfreude thing. It's like we're still not fully over kind of enjoying the shits, not the shits, the roses, kind of getting some comeuppance and seeing the, I'm assuming, younger sister come and kind of get one up over the older sister who's had dramatically more success in life is still kind of amusing, even if it is torturing our beloved Moira.
Well, yeah, we find out from Johnny that so at one point they loaned Dee Dee $50,000, and Johnny says, "Moira, you spent more on wigs that year that we loaned that
year.
Money. Like, and it was a gift. Like, we never expected her to ever pay it back, but Moira has a little bit of revisionist history on that memory. So,
yeah, I can imagine that she is hopeful that it was a loan, so that she definitely gets it back because they are in need of $50,000.
I mean, I would never turn away $50,000. Like,
I yeah, I don't think I could be that rich to ever turn down 50 grand. Like, I'd be like, "Yeah, of course I'll take
no.
50 grand."
50 grand is honestly kind of a life-changing amount of money depending on where what your station is in life, but like
Mhm.
50 grand, that's a house renovation, that's a nice car. That's like a decent car, you know.
Yeah.
Granted you'd get like half taken away in taxes here in the States, but I don't know how it works in Canada, but you'd not get you'd get like 25 grand probably when after taxes here. But anyway, that's my jaded viewpoint of it. All right, let's do a quick recap and then we'll break down because there's a couple different storylines we have to talk about in this
Yes.
episode. So this week we welcome Moira's sister Dee Dee to Schitt's Creek. She's here to, well, basically to gloat and wave her money in her sister's face. Moira's ego is bigger than her desire for money, but Johnny insists that Moira must swallow her pride and accept whatever Dee Dee is offering. But it turns out that she's not even offering enough to pay for dinner. So, the shits are still, excuse me, the roses are still up Shit's Creek without a paddle in terms of money. David and Stevie are trying to navigate their new friends with benefit relationship, which leads to some really awkward encounters, especially with the sexy handyman, Grant. David also gets roped into speaking to one of Jocelyn's students, who turns out to be somewhat of a mini David and doesn't really want his help. Alexis meddles in Mutt and Twyla's relationship while Twyla is writing a song for Mutt, and Mutt is on the verge of breaking up with Twyla. And Ted doesn't seem that thrilled about any of this. And that's what happened on this episode of Schitt's Creek. So, Stuart, where do you want to start?
I have to get into the Alexis redemption story.
Okay, great.
I'm We've been down on Alexis for a long time now. She's got LVP for quite a number of episodes. And in this one, despite a little bit of meddling and still being Alexis as Alexis is, she does, I think, probably the kindest thing towards the end, which is to stray Twyla away from something that may embarrass her because she knows the writing's on the wall already with their relationship based on what Mutt's told her. But then also when like Twyla says thank you, she's like, for what? Like she acts as if it's nothing because Alexis and Twyla are going to be friends, and this is great.
Yeah, I will say like definitely I'm not spoiling anything obviously, but like Twyla and Alexis as a friendship is like really interesting to watch, especially knowing the origin of like Alexis was interested in Mutt, who's Twyla's boyfriend. Like there's certainly complications there, but I really love their friendship and like this is kind of it feels like a big moment for them as friends. And probably one of the first times we've really seen Alexis. Well, she's still self-interested, right? Because she likes
Mhm.
Mutt. But like there is a part of selflessness in her trying to get Twyla to stop writing the song without like overtly saying, Mutt's gonna break up with you.
Yeah. But this is the thing. I don't think she's necessarily doing any of this to for the mutt of everything. I think it's just so happens that she is on community service with Mutt. They have the conversation, and I think that at first she was kind of using Ted to almost like kind of make Mutt jealous in a way.
Mhm.
And I think that she's now bought into that so much that like Mutt's, I think, an afterthought. I don't think that's there anymore. So I think
Mhm.
that all that she's doing for Twyla is legitimate and is for real,
Yeah,
maybe?
so this is a good question. Like if you knew someone, because at this point, I would not really call Twyla Alexis's friend. Like friend
No.
adjacent, like maybe a little bit more than an acquaintance, but less than a
Mhm.
friend, somewhere in that middle ground. Um, if you were in this situation and you're Alexis and you know someone is going to dump your acquaintance, maybe nearly friend, do you say anything? Like, what do you do if you're Alexis? Like, do you meddle at all? Do you let things lie?
I mean, if it was me, I'd certainly do what Alexis did. Because no one wants anyone to like go into something that's going to be heartbreaking, like face first. You kind of want to cushion
Mhm.
the blow a little bit. Like, no matter kind of what friendship level you are with someone, no one wants to see someone hurt like that, surely. And I think that this shows that, like, Alexis is a deeper human being who does have actual cares for other people, regardless of what. Maybe she's been reading the book that Ted gave her. I don't know. Like, maybe it's about caring for
How to
others other
care
than
for
yourself.
how to care for something other than yourself. And she chose Twyla, not an animal.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, she's. I think this is all just. not even an attempt to become Twyla's friend. I don't think it is even that well thought of. I think she's just like, no, this is just what needs to be done. I think it's like an instinctual thing of morality, weirdly.
Yeah, it almost feels a little bit girl code to me.
Yes.
Alexis is someone who probably hasn't had a ton of like real true friends in her life. You know, she feels like someone who's constantly surrounded by people that like she said, like, right, she wants to be surrounded by people that flatter her and like give her compliments, but probably aren't necessarily like her actual true friends.
Mhm.
But I do imagine that Alexis lives by a little bit of the girl code where it's like, no, you got to tell your friend if this guy is doing her dirty, right? Like it feels like she would live by some sort of standard like that. It is just nice to see her try to intervene and help someone like Twyla, who is I know Stuart, you love Jocelyn. We talked a lot about your love for Jocelyn. And I feel like Twyla is my Jocelyn, where because she's so naive and innocent and like a heart of gold, like I absolutely adore her. There's not a mean bone in Twyla's body. And so if it's going to be anybody, it feels so perfect that it's Twyla that Alexis is kind of like helping out in this way.
Yeah. And how perfect is it that Twyla with a heart of gold is like you get the kind of almost like a smidge of a backstory in the sense that like her father told her, if you're gonna say something, say it with a song. Like, of course that was said to her as a child. Like, of course that's what because and that's what frames her as being this kind of like person that just has not a bad bone in their body.
Mhm.
Oh bless her.
Yeah, and the other thing that also just kind of struck me right now is we joke about the fact that Alexis will occasionally just drop these random facts about herself that are just so unbelievable, right? Like she says, "This is the longest relationship I've ever been in." One time I was like held hostage for a few months, but like that doesn't really count. Like Alexis comes out with that crap all the time. And Twyla kind of does a similar thing where she talks about her father and Fleetwood Mac, and she's like, it's the last thing he said to him before the restraining
Training
order.
order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's they are kind of similar in that way, which I really do love. So yeah, a pretty good episode for Alexis overall, I would say.
Oh yeah, completely. And I'm so happy to see it because we've been down on Twyla, down on Mutt as well. And I mean, Mutt's not out of the doghouse just yet. Maybe he will get there. Who knows? But it's great to see Alexis get out from that because I was
Yeah.
worried that I was going to have one of the core characters that I just didn't like. So it's good to see this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing is I also really don't like, we haven't really talked a ton about Mutt and his approach. I really hate him telling Alexis all of this before he talks to Twyla. And I'm not saying like don't say this sort of stuff to your friends, right? Like I think it's important to have friends you can confide in about your relationship, especially if you're going through issues. It's important to have that person. But we know there's like a little bit of chemistry between Mutt and Alexis. And so it feels a little bit like crossing a line to mention it to her before he talks to Twyla about it.
Completely. I mean, even last week we were shouting at him for this exact thing, is that he's
Mhm.
divulging about like or asking, "Oh, have you ever had a sex dream about that?" To someone that is quite clearly the subject of that as well. So he knows
Mhm.
himself. So
Yeah.
he should know better than this.
And he's
Um,
and he's
yeah,
putting Alexis also in a really tricky position, right? Where like he knows she goes to the cafe like every single day. And like maybe her and Twyla aren't the best of friends, but they're at the very least very friendly. And so he's
mhm,
putting her in an awkward position. And credit to Alexis for finding a way to navigate that middle ground where she doesn't outright say Mutt is going to break up with you, but she also doesn't just ignore the situation. She finds that middle ground of maybe you should talk to Mutt before you break out in song. And I just think that's
yeah.
like very subtle for a character like Alexis.
Oh yeah, completely. And it could have gone so bad because if she had spoken on behalf of Mud, then that might have triggered Twilight to say, "Well, why is he talking to you about this? What's your
Exactly.
connection here? What have you been saying to him?" And all of these things. I think she threaded that needle perfectly. But the weirdest thing about this entire thing is that Ted's jealousy is still there, and he sees all of this going on, and he's there with like,
Mhm.
"Why are we getting involved in this?" Because he knows that Now, Mutt is not distracted with Twyla, so Mutt is gonna perhaps lock onto Alexis and is gonna
Mhm.
try and put the charm on her. And what with him being bullied by Mutt as a kid, of course, this is ringing alarm bells for Ted, which is really sad. But Ted needs to like
Yeah.
get that into check.
You have to imagine too that I mean, we don't know a lot about Mutt's dating history, but you have to imagine Ted does. So,
Mhm,
if Mutt is the sort of like playboy player sort of guy, then Ted would know that. And he wouldn't want Alexis getting pulled into something like that. You know, Alexis is the one who, yes, she knows Mutt, but Ted grew up with Mutt. So
mhm.
he knows him. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all of that. We didn't see them break up or anything, but it certainly seems like we're on our way in that direction. So speaking of ends of relationships, let's talk about beginnings of relationships, possibly with David and Stevie. Quite some awkward encounters this episode, Stuart.
Yeah. So the thing I was hesitant about, not last week, the week before, about like kind of how awkward this was this is it now. They're like having the conversation at the beginning, and Stevie walks in on Stevie? No, David walks in on Stevie flirting with Grant and is immediately it throws them off completely, and he's now completely shaken and is totally jealous. And the boundaries, just what are the boundaries of this whole thing? They're friends with benefits. He doesn't have a claim over Stevie. Stevie's free to flirt with whoever the hell she wants, especially if it's Grant. But oh, it's just so awkward because I just want them to have a conversation. They leave it to the very end. Of course they do.
Yeah. Um this episode is the exact reason that when in the hookup episode, the first time we see them hook up, I was very against it. I
Hmm.
didn't want to say too much on the podcast to like color your feelings on it, especially cuz you didn't know what was to come. For you, they could have been a friends with benefits and it could have worked out very easily without any hurt feelings, any complications. Um I don't like it. I don't like this. And this is the exact reason why. Like David and Stevie are such good friends. They're so funny. They play off each other so well. They understand each other, which is
Hmm.
rare for David to have someone who really understands him. And so to complicate that relationship with the friends with benefits, as the Jocelyn student says, like it never works. Have you seen any television or movies where a friends with benefits situation ever works? No. Someone's feelings always get hurt, and this is the reason I didn't like that they slept together when they did. I'm not a huge fan of this storyline in general because it feels not only a little tropey and cliche, but also a little forced, in my opinion. Like you can't go from we're friends with benefits, we don't even care to like next episode someone's jealous. It's just like very
Hmm.
frustrating. And yeah, Grant, good looking guy, perfect, but David's just being such a he's being such a butthole. Like he's really being the
Yeah.
worst here. Like the candy bowl full of condoms. I honestly, Stuart, like I had no problems with what Stevie did the entire episode because I would
Hmm.
have sniped back like she did too. You have no claim
Yeah.
over me.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just it's strange to see that because what they've done is they at first when this happened, we even said like kind of this has come out of nowhere. Like there was
Yeah.
no real tee up for this whatsoever. So maybe it could have been excused by just being a kind of high thing. But then it continues. And I was like, okay, well then they're winning me over if it's going to
Yeah.
continue because maybe something will develop and it will get richer and deeper, and then it's taken away from us almost, and it's taken away in a good way because I like the fact they recognize no, it's I don't have many friends here, I can't afford to lose you, so I think it's best if we just, and then Stevie just comes back with friends because she's feeling the same thing, so I like that they both arrive at that kind of thing themselves. But why put us through that? Why?
Yeah. See, on the bright side, they don't leave us hanging for too long. This isn't like a 2-season long will they won't they nonsense
Mm,
thing. But why put us through it in the first place? I guess like on the bright side, Stuart, we got the wine analogy out of it. So like I suppose it's worth it in the long run for how like incredible that analogy is and how it's used in everyone's day-to-day life, right? But yeah, I just don't vibe with this entire storyline. It's not my favorite. I'm happy that they both kind of have that realization and it's squashed because this is not what I want out of my Schitt's Creek is the David and Stevie complications. I did enjoy the David subplot of Jocelyn wanting him to mentor one of her students because she says, "Huh, you look like someone who had a rough time in high school." It's such a like mean thing to say without even really meaning to.
Yeah, Jocelyn's really like she's got no filter. I think it's probably osmosis from being around Roland for too long. But
Mhm.
I don't think she says it with any kind of malice. I think that it's just she just says it because she kind of wants to level with people. She doesn't want to like have this BS. But of course she knows how to pick like her lines, doesn't she? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but yeah.
I also love that Jocelyn is like stealthily a little bit of an eagle eye, where David like rips open the packaging on some toilet paper to like feel it before he buys it, and she's like,
Mhm.
get the quilted. That other one will chafe you right up." That's so perfect. It's so
She's
perfect.
like, "Oh, honey," like, it's if, like, she's really imparting this really great advice. I
Yeah.
love that she just sees everything. She's a very kind of perceptive character.
Yeah, and I think she's very under the radar about it, right? Like she doesn't
Mm,
come off that way. But she sees a lot. She notices a lot. She's a lot more astute than I think most people would give her credit for. But yeah, David and the student that he ends up mentoring, it's really funny, Stuart, because you have to see the parallels between this kid and David of like, I don't want to be here. He's like, it's not that I don't fit in, it's that I don't want to fit in. Like these people suck.
yeah.
Why would I want to fit in here?
It's that whole playing with tropes because you expect that Dave's going to get there and it's going to be David from years ago that just needs that pep talk. And of course, they flip it on its head by having it be no, it's David as David is now, self
Mhm.
assured, fully realized, and just a judgmental king that just sees the entire world as it is. And Schitt's Creek is as it is. It's a small town that gets very judgmental. So, of course, they can be judgmental back and be like, no, I don't want to be here. So why would I put in the effort to talk to other kids who are going to be shitty to me and things like that?
Mhm.
I thought the way in which David was getting read was hilarious as well. Like the gentle glances down to the three-quarter length trousers and just you could just see the hatred for them. And I was like, I loved it. Connor was amazing.
Yeah. And Jocelyn too, she says like, "Oh, your floral top," like the David shirt, which I love. Like it's one of my favorite pieces that David wears is this like white, I don't know if it's like a sweatshirt or a sweater, but it has kind of like black and gray roses all over it.
Mhm,
I love this top for David. I think it's like cuz he wears a lot of black, like mostly black, so to have kind of the opposite of like mostly white with some black is a nice change
mhm.
for David.
He's embellishing it up. There's the little bit of jewelry kind of around the neck and stuff. From the waist up, looks great.
Yeah,
But three
he
quarter
really
lengths,
he really does, go out there when it comes to pants and just bottoms in general, right? So,
it's a bold choice.
yeah.
And I'm never gonna judge many people too much for a bold choice, but I will judge just a little.
Yeah. Let's move on to, the little sister herself, Dee Dee, who comes into town. So what do you think about Dee Dee here? Did you think she was actually going to give them any money? Did you think that they were gonna accept it at all? Did you have any predictions on this when the episode started?
No, so when she arrived, I was thinking like it makes you think about all the possibilities of what's come before. Like if Johnny and Moira were that rich, were they very generous with their families? Would Dee Dee have a load of money that like
Mhm.
they gave before? Not a great amount. Like yes, a life changing sum of money, but not enough that Dee Dee is set for life kind of set of money. So when she arrived, I was thinking that maybe she's fully estranged. Like this was in the opening moments, and that she was there to try and sponge more money off them
Mm.
somehow in some way. Um, but yeah, I didn't think that it would be she'd be quite so normal in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, she does seem I can see how you would read it as she's here to try to get con more money out of them in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, she's really just there to brag about what she has and what they don't.
Mhm.
I think it's evident by the fact that I think it's Alexis who says, "We thought you were dead." Like that they really are estranged. I also really enjoyed her giving the kids $100 each and Alexis going, "I missed you."
Yeah. Love it so much. Oh my god, I missed you so much.
Yeah,
And like
it's
hugs her, and I was like,
perfect.
oh geez. But then Uncle Julio as well. Like you get the impression that Dee Dee is just an absolute chaos aunt, like the one that turns up, buys affection from the kids when like she's
Mhm.
around and things, and when she is around, she's perhaps quite doting, but the moment she leaves, she's gone, and then that
Yeah.
is it for like years until she needs something.
Yeah, exactly. And Johnny is willing to like put their egos aside to take money because he's like, we did give her 50 grand. And if she can afford for her Buffalonian townhouse, and if she can, it's just so ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry, like I live in New York and I've never heard anybody say like Buffalonian. Maybe they do in Buffalo. I'm not sure. But yeah, so he's very much of the mind of if she's willing to give us some money, we have to take it. We can afford if she gives us money, we can afford to move out of the motel. So why not take it? And so they go through this whole like ruse of, oh, we're gonna take Dee Dee out to dinner and we're going to say nice things to her so that she gives us money. And Johnny makes a huge faux pas here, Stuart, when he doesn't even look at the check before he puts it in his pocket. And I think that's the moment if you don't already realize while you're watching the episode, I think that's the moment where you're kind of like, how much is that actually for though?
Yeah, the moment he just pockets it straight away, I was like, Johnny, check the check. But you can always check the check. Like, you got to make sure
Mhm.
everything's correct, that it's made out to the right person. Like, any younger listeners who have never dealt with a check, you don't understand the pain of getting a check and it just being wrong and not being signed, not having the right
Ugh.
amount. It's a
Thankfully
nightmare.
thankfully, most banks are fairly forgiving in terms of the name because that is a huge if anyone's ever, like, gotten married, it is a big pain in the butt to make sure people are writing the check to the correct people, because if you're like me and didn't change your last name, and someone puts your last name as something that it is not because you are a Mr. and Mrs. now, it could be quite the pain in the butt. So, yeah, I totally agree. It's like, you gotta check the check, man. Make sure she didn't sign it from like Donald Duck or something, Like, just check it over, do a little once over. And yeah, it turns out that it was missing a couple of zeros. And it seems like however much she gave them, I assumed it was like $50 or something, wasn't even enough to cover their dinner that they took her out for. So,
Yeah, it was complete and utter slap in the face, and especially
mhm.
because, I mean, really, like Moira putting the work in, actually kind of going along with it by the end, and actually swallowing her pride and saying, "Yeah, we do need some help. Some money would be good," and things like that. But Johnny had put in the work this episode to try and convince Moira of this, so it hurt him so much. And like when he's just at the end, just laying it down, just going cheap ass, just over
It's
and over
so
again.
funny.
So hilarious. And Moira's just done with it. Moira's getting ready, goes to bed, just ignores him because she's used to this behavior.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little part of Moira is like, "Yeah, I knew it." Like, of course
Mhm.
she's gonna do that. Of course Dee Dee would pull that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that we kind of bookend the episode with at the end we get Johnny's cheap ass remark, and we start off the episode with Moira jumping out of bed, just screaming, "Ah, fuck me, fuck me." She thinks there's like bed bugs. It's just a perfect way to bookend the whole episode.
Mm.
So I question for you, Stuart. Do you think we see Dee Dee again? And if so, how soon are we seeing her again?
I mean, given the way in which she's posed as like this kind of fleeting aunt that turns up when it's suitable for her, now she's got her one up over Moira in this whole situation. She knows they're going to be dining out on that for a while in terms of hatred towards her, and she's going to live off that. I don't think we see her for a while, maybe like a couple of seasons. If she turns
Okay.
up next season, I'd be surprised.
All right.
Maybe towards the tail end.
Okay. Yeah, she is in the best shape of her life, so she really needs to stay at a place with a
Mhm.
gym. She
Oh,
can't be staying at the
completely.
motel.
Yeah, no, you
Um
gotta go for the junior suite.
the junior suite, so ridiculous. All right, let's get into some feedback here. Jared says, I do think this is the weakest episode of season 1 and perhaps of the show. It's not bad, it's just kind of fine. There are too many things
Mhm.
happening, only a few good jokes, and has multiple downers in the end. What do you think about that, Stuart?
Kind of agree. kind of don't. I wouldn't say that for me at least, I don't necessarily judge the episode on whether it leaves me with a positive feeling or a load of jokes. For me, this one was good in the sense that it progressed a few things. We got a load of backstory, like on Moira's whole situation, especially with Dee Dee as well. A little bit on Johnny's kind of relationship with the pair of them too. We got Twyla and Mutt finally put a nail in that coffin. So that's over and done with. The Stevie and David thing is done. And we got Alexis' redemption. So I don't rate this as a bad episode, but certainly in terms of laughs, this isn't up there. I mean, it's nowhere
Yeah.
near the cabin level in terms of jokes.
Certainly. Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think I agree with Jared a little bit more than you in terms of it's not a memorable episode for
Hmm.
me. Like obviously based on the title, I remembered what would happen at least in the uh A storyline. I don't even know if I would call it that, but like the Moira and Johnny side of things, I knew what to expect from this episode. I didn't really recall a lot of the like David and Alexis sides of stuff. Like I don't like the David and Stevie stuff. So while I'm happy they ended it, I also was like, what a waste of time to like have this whole episode about that. And I do like this as a for growth for Alexis, but it's also not like the funniest, right? It doesn't like tickle my funny bone in any particular way. I would probably agree it's the weakest episode of season 1. Um just based on like again, I agree with you like I don't always need to be laughing hysterically every episode, but if I'm not, then I want my heart to swell 3 sizes. You know, like I want it to be one
Hmm.
or the other. And I don't know that this really had either one of those things. Um
I wonder if
yeah.
I've maybe, like you say, you want your heart to swell three sizes when if it's not going to be all the last. I wonder if perhaps I have been down Alexis too much, and for me that is my heart swelling three sizes because I was really surprised by Alexis's actions in this and was really
Mhm.
kind of endeared to her. So I kind of rate it up a little bit, mostly for that. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'm being a little bit
And
biased
it
there.
could be because I've seen this show so many times at this point that I know what happens to Alexis. So this is like a blip, right? You know, like
Hmm.
it's a very small step, a great step forward for her, but a very small step. So yeah, I don't know. Nick says, shout out to Nick's wife. This cracked me up. He said the pro of having his podcast or having a podcast his wife will actually listen to is they can listen together on car trips. But the con is that she insists on 1.00 speed. Shout out to Nick's wife, who's hopefully listening to this. Listen, you got to do what you got to do. I don't know how anybody listens to me on anything but 1x because I tend to speak very quickly. But if you're listening, we're just grateful no matter what, right, Stuart?
Hmm. You can listen whatever speed. I'm thankful for any, so I will not begrudge anyone for going at one speed, three speed, whatever. But
Mhm.
also, I wonder if we should have kept Alexis's tact in not saying this one because perhaps there might be some couples therapy needed after this
No,
revelation is revealed.
I have to imagine Nick has already like huffed and puffed about having to listen to anything at 1x. Like I can't imagine he kept this to himself. But also Nick and his wife had suggested this cracked me up. If you're ever looking for a bonus podcast content, my wife and I think Come From Away would provide some great crossover content. For those who don't know, Come From Away is a Canadian musical, like a theater musical. And Stuart, this cracked me up that like we would get suggestions to cover something else that's Canadian when neither one of us is
I know, right? We're such frauds.
although we both
Like,
have seen Come From Away and really liked it. So,
yes, I mean, Come From Way is one of my favorites. I was really fortunate enough to go to the opening night of it over here in the UK. My friend took me along to it, and it was my first experience watching it, and was blown away. And I think we've watched it multiple times in the PSR Discord because we were
mhm.
like, I think we watched it twice in one week, if I
We
remember
watched it.
rightly.
Yes, I can verify that I streamed it twice in 1 week because I wanted a time that was friendly for East Coasters and West Coasters. So, I've seen it quite a number of times at this point. I really enjoy it. I think if we covered it without our friend Melissa, who was on the podcast earlier in the season, I think she would kill us. She would come to
Yeah,
both America and the UK and murder both of us.
yeah, quite rightfully so. Because I don't think, as much as we like may harp on about how much we love it, I think Melissa loves it just twice as much.
Yeah, most definitely.
Mhm.
So something to think about for us in the future. But
Yeah.
for now, let's get into our ratings. Stuart, I think I know your answer, but who was simply the best this episode?
Oh, has to be Dee Dee, right? Like, Dee Dee was just
She's the
no,
best. She's great.
of no, of course, it's gotta be Alexis in here. I think the redemption, admittedly, it might be a small step. I don't know what's to come, but for this was enough for me.
Yeah, it's a baby step in the right direction, and I think I totally agree. I think this is the best episode for Alexis by far in terms of character growth, and especially like you said, just that small moment of Twyla very earnestly and genuinely saying like "Thank you, Alexis," and Alexis just saying "For what?" Like she just acts like it's no big deal. I love that. I think in another world, a few months ago, we could have seen Alexis being like, "Great, you owe me one,"
Mhm.
but we don't see that, and I think that's really, really shows a lot of emotional growth from Alexis.
Yeah.
And what about your disgruntled pelican? Who's your LVP?
Ooh, so again, couple of possible candidates here. Could be Grant for just upping and leaving Stevie.
Mhm.
Although as someone with diverticulitis, I can attest that bowel problems do occur, and sometimes people do take a while. But he definitely stood her up, and he's a shitbag for it. Um, but then David was a real ass for no real reason. Like, yeah, he could be jealous, but he doesn't have the right to be jealous. But then Dee Dee did just cut them a $50 check. Yeah, it's got to be Dee Dee.
Dee,
Has to
okay.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is with this episode, there really are so many options as to like who sucks because a lot of them suck. So gosh, yeah. I'm struggling to
What are
think
you
of like
thinking?
who actually is the worst here. Honestly, I mentioned him a little earlier in terms of like stuff I think he did wrong, but I'm gonna take this opportunity to pile on Mutt. I think like
Yes.
I just think like he sucks. Like I think telling this to Alexis when you know you have chemistry with her, like you're not innocent, bud. I just think
Mhm.
it's a bad move, and I think you should have already been having this conversation with Twyla. In my opinion, if Twyla is writing a song for you, like she really has no idea there's anything going wrong in this relationship, and that's bad on Mutt and like not great
Yeah.
communication. So I also just hate him. Like I really do. And you know what it is? You know why I hate him? Here's the thing. A character like Dee Dee, like she sucks, but she's entertaining in the way that she sucks.
Mhm.
Whereas Mutt has no right to be as boring as he is. Like he has like he should apologize. He's so
Yeah.
boring. And it's like, yes, he's a pretty face, and that's essentially it. Like, I don't care. I don't care about Mutt. Get a personality, you know? And I feel like I've had to hold this back for so long because I didn't want to color your opinions. Like, I want you to be able to formulate your own opinions on these characters. But I've just had it with Mutt. He's so boring. That's the worst thing you could be when I'm watching TV is boring. So
Yeah.
he gets
He's he's had
disgruntled Pelican point.
so much opportunity with the conversations with Alexis, and we say this as if it is much choice not to say this. This is the writing. He's had the opportunity in these scenes with Alexis to pile on about things that could give him more depth, give him like kind of some substance. The whole
Mhm.
expectation from Roland to be mayor after him, the fact that he has chosen to like live the way he does and why he feels different from the town and why perhaps he is a bit more of a kindred spirit with Alexis and why maybe like there could be so much more building on that. But with that all being unsaid, all of Mutt's stuff with Alexis comes down to it being a very almost primal thing of just, oh yeah, she's cute and I like her. Like,
Yes,
which
exactly.
makes it
Like, what do they
so
have in common?
superficial. Nothing. They have community service. That's it.
It's so upsetting. Like, if they had connected on like literally anything, maybe my opinion of Mutt changes, but they don't do enough to develop him as a character for me to care. And I should
Mhm.
care because he's not just some rando. He's the mayor's son. Like he's Roland and Jocelyn Schitt's son. Characters that we know a lot about and we're like invested in. Why are we not invested in Mutt? It's either that like they're not putting in the effort or I don't know. There's just something that makes me wanting more from Mutt beyond the really again, I cannot stress enough how much I love his beard. But like
Mm.
if you have that nice of a beard and I still don't like you, there's something so wrong with your character.
You know what's really making me sad about this conversation is that he is Jocelyn's son, which makes me think that Jocelyn has taken a misstep in parenting, which takes her down a notch in terms of my favorites.
Oof. It's
Oh,
brutal for
Jocelyn,
you. So
please,
brutal for
like,
you.
help him.
Help a guy out because Jocelyn is very interesting, right? Like she's really
Oh,
funny
yeah.
and entertaining. So why is her son so boring? Like, help me out here. I don't understand.
No, I do. Sometimes kids are a
Anyway,
disappointment.
yes, it's the worst thing you could be to a parent is a disappointment. She's not angry. She's just disappointed at how
Yeah,
boring her
uh,
son is.
I would
Uh,
be.
let's talk about Moira's wig here. We're on Wig Watch, and she had a wig this episode. Stuart, I don't know. Did you recognize this wig? We've seen it before.
Have we?
We
Was
have.
this like a base layer wig that we've seen before?
It was in season 1, episode 3, which was "Don't Worry, It's His Sister." So that's where we've seen this wig before. She's worn this wig one time before.
Incredible. Yeah, the notes I had on it is that it's kind of like a blend of the wig last week that was like the layered black and
Mhm.
white. This is like a blend with a grey. Very voluminous bob going on here.
Yeah, it's I think the bangs are a little bit more like curled under than they were the last time she wore this wig. But on one hand, I'm of two minds with like repeating wigs. On one hand, I like the realism of like I'm gonna shout out a show and like don't judge me. The Big Bang Theory was really good about like people re-wearing t-shirts, which in my opinion is like a very human thing. We don't just wear something
Yeah.
once and throw it away. So on one hand, I'm like, it's nice. She's re-wearing a wig we've seen once before. Like it's realistic. And on the other hand, I'm like, Moira, I want to see more of your wig collection. Diversify a little.
Maybe it's talking about like Moira and her like being comfortable. Maybe the wigs aren't ready to be just kind of shown to the world just yet.
Um,
And
maybe
maybe
she
that's
was
why we've
like,
seen
it's
so many.
it's just Dee Dee. I'm not gonna bring out all the showstoppers for
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Dee
yeah.
Dee.
Yeah, she gets a repeat wig. She doesn't get a fresh one.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's wig. The one wig we have seen it before, but that's okay. I still like when Moira wears any wigs. I'm always game for it. But let's rate or excuse me tier rank our episode this week. So as usual, we have our hot shit, full bouquet, love that journey for me, Ew David, and shit out of luck, tears, Little Sister, season 1, episode 11. We both have kind of agreed this is a little bit lackluster of an episode beyond a few really nice moments
Mhm.
for Alexis. A gut instinct on where this belongs for you, Stuart.
Okay, so when I was first thinking about this, I was pretty sure David, like, definitely in that tier. But the more we talked about this, the more that Jared has kind of swayed me a little bit. I'm kind of leaning perhaps a little bit shit out of luck.
I honestly completely agree with you. Like, I just
Hmm.
think as much as I really enjoy the Alexis stuff, I don't I honestly hate the David and Stevie stuff. Like, and I like where they end up with it, but I hate the fact that it even happens. And
Hmm.
so the fact that that is the story point, and usually it's like if I'm like meh on a thing, it's like kind of average, right? The fact that I obviously just hate one thing, and like the Dee Dee storyline is fine. It's like it's hovering below average. The Alexis stuff really doesn't make up for those other storylines enough
Yeah.
for me to warrant putting it above shit out of luck. And I kind of like the fact that we could possibly end up with at least one thing in each tier, you know? So far
Yeah.
there's no hot shits. We'll see if there is. We're coming up on the end of the season, Stuart. We only have 2 episodes left.
I don't like that. I
Yeah.
want this to keep going.
Yeah, so 2 episodes left. We do still have a chance for something to end up in hot shit, but I kind of agree. I think we should put this one in shit out of luck just because it's pretty meh. Like and it's bad when it comes to the Stevie and David stuff, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah. But also, I mean, we created these different like tier levels, and from everything that like you've said, from everything that guests have said, is that things only get better from this season onwards.
Yes.
So if we don't put this one in here now, I don't think we're ever going to use this
Yeah, what else
ranking.
will be in
So
there?
why
That's
have we
so
bothered?
true. That's so true. We need something to go in there. Okay, so Little Sister will be shit out of luck, which is really nice. We have a nice little right here, and I think we're doing a good job. To me, it signals we're doing a good job when like about half the episodes are in the average tier.
Mhm.
I think that's just like how math works, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, complete
That's how math
mathematicians here.
works.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So next episode, Stuart. The title is Surprise Party.
I imagine there will be a surprise party if that is the episode
Who do
title.
we think the surprise party is for? Because if you're having a surprise party, usually
Ooh.
it's for someone.
Maybe it could be Ted throwing one for like Alexis. Maybe it's Alexis's birthday coming up.
Okay.
Seems like a Ted thing to do.
That does seem like a
Maybe
very
she'll
Ted thing to
hate
do.
it.
Does Alexis not like surprises in your mind?
No, I think no, she'd love a surprise party,
Alexis?
wouldn't she? A gathering
Well,
of people to celebrate her.
yes, however, this is gonna be a little bit of a weird divergence. Alexis seems like the type of girl who, if you don't warn her someone's going to propose to her so she can get her nails done, she's gonna be pissed off.
Oh,
So, like, I feel like
yeah.
she'd wanna know because she'd wanna be well dressed for the event.
It's like that proposal video where a guy proposes, and it's like way off on the cliffside. Someone's recording from a distance. You just hear this echo. You let me do this in sweatpants.
Exactly. Listen, if you know that your friend is about to be proposed to and you don't warn them, or at least like, and I'm not saying you have to say you're about to get engaged. You have to figure out a way. It's your job as the friend to figure out a way to get your friend to the nail salon. That is your
Hmm.
job. That is your job as a friend. Because you know what's not cute? Photos of like you and your engagement ring with your nasty nails and your nasty cuticles. Okay? I'm just saying. It's a requirement. I don't care. I don't really care about your outfit because you know what you're taking a picture of? That hand in that ring. Just saying.
I mean, business idea here. Why not in the little boxes for the engagement rings? Why not just have a little thing underneath with just a little compartment for press-on nails, just to kind of make sure that you're covering everything?
That's incredible.
Honestly, business people, call me.
Yeah,
Trademarks.
patent it, trademark it, all of the above. That's what I'm saying. Like, I guess if you're being, that is a newer thing now where like people are secretly filming or taking photos. So, like, I suppose you want your outfit to look decent as well, but the nails are the most important part. My husband was smart. He did it before we went on vacation. You know what I did before vacation? Got my nails done. So they looked great.
Props to Will.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, next week, season 1, episode 12, surprise party. It is the penultimate episode, Stuart. We're like getting so close to the finale.
Oh, I don't know if I can handle this. This is going way too fast.
I mean, surely, yeah. There are 13 episode seasons for the most part, so it really does fly by. And just like a programming note for people, we're gonna cover the final 2 episodes, and then we're gonna stop down and do like a season 1 wrap up. So we'll kind of talk about the characters' journeys so far. We'll talk about the results of our disgruntled pelican points and our simply the best points. So that'll be fun. I don't know if you have any idea, Stuart, on where people are currently.
I
But
wonder
that'll be
where
really
Mutt
fun.
is.
Nowhere good, I can tell you that much. If my
Mhm.
rant is any indication. So stick around for that in between seasons. And yeah, I think that's everything we have. In the meantime, you can find me over on Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. We're covering Buffy, we're covering Felicity. Honestly, I had one of the most unhinged podcasts of all time, and I've been podcasting for quite a few years at this point, talking about the movie American Pie with our friend Chappelle. Stuart, have you seen that movie?
Yes, I can only imagine how weird it got.
Would it surprise you to know that I was obsessed with that movie as a teenager and I watched it so many times?
I
Really
really am
weird.
not surprised.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, love Michelle and her times at band camp. So definitely listen to that podcast. It's like 50% about the movie and 50% about our stories and Chappelle's stories. So definitely go listen to that. You can find me at the Just Sterling. Stuart, where can people find you?
You can find me at Stuart Drinks Tea.
All right, perfect. Next week, we'll be back with season 1, episode 12. So until then, warmest regards.
Best wishes.